Last year, Vybz Kartel was exonerated of a murder conviction based on a technicality. Disclaimer, I have no problems with Mr. Kartel having his movement limited. I'd rather not see him in Trinidad and Tobago. But I want to use the words of the Minister of Defense for this video to show the absolute hypocrisy and double standard that we are experiencing as citizens of this country right now. Listen to the words of the Minister of Defense, and this would have been less than 10 days ago. It was May 15th, I believe. Open quotation marks. But what we must not do is give the impression that we are giving legitimacy to someone who only recently was released from death row for murder and whose conviction was not overturned on merit. Close quotation marks. Let's repeat the last line. And whose conviction was not overturned on merit. Which means, as a lawyer, Wayne Sturge seems to understand that there is apparently, I'm not a lawyer, but according to him, he seems to see a difference between having a conviction overturned on a basis of merit versus a technicality. Less than 10 days after these words by the Minister of Defense, the country would have seen a House Speaker selected. This is not an elected position, right? This is somebody who is appointed by the Prime Minister. And I think this is the first time in history that our Speaker of the House actually did jail time, 4 years to be exact. In 2001, Jagdeo Singh, who is the Speaker of the House of Parliament, he is the Speaker of the lower House of Representatives, right? He's the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Jagdeo Singh was convicted of 2 counts of corruption in 2001. In 2002, he lost his appeal. After serving 4 years in jail, he won his appeal. Well, he won at the Privy Council level based on a technicality. This is the double standard and the hypocrisy that we as citizens must call our government out on. We must demand that they explain things like this. How can you, on one hand, less than 10 days before, have your Minister of Defense speak about, his conviction was not overturned on merit, and then we have a Speaker of the House installed whose conviction was overturned on a technicality? This person, was convicted of corruption. What message does that send to our citizens that white-collar crime will not be dealt with seriously? These are some of the things that leave the country not trusting the government. And, we can ill afford to have these issues, especially when there are people like Jayanti Lakshmi-Dayal, there are people like Kyle Taklal Singh. The UNC has no shortage of good persons inside of that party. And you can go outside, by the way. You could choose Timothy Hamel-Smith. We have lawyers. We have persons who understand, how to govern, matters of parliament. Why do we insist on choosing people who have been before the courts, who have baggage? What is that saying to our young people? That it doesn't matter, that you can live. And I'm all for grace and I'm all for second chances. But, as I say, I'm all for grace and I'm all for second chances, but there is certainly double standard, as I said, in the words of the Minister of Defense. And I saw the Prime Minister said, his conviction was overturned, and that's where she left it. She left it as, what was the magic word? Overturned, full stop. And again, this is the kind of immature responses that I would like to see erased from our political dialogue. If it is that come and say, look, this is the situation, this is how long it's been, whatever. But as I said, not when we have so many good people that we can choose from without any baggage. The country is looking for fresh, new faces without any past. Can we try those people first? But the hypocrisy certainly is a bit deafening at this point.